Hi, my name is John, and welcome back to my channel. We're going to do something a little different. The first quarter of 2025's wrap up. I've reviewed a bunch of movies in January, February, and March. I'm just going to review where these movies came in on the Good Burger scale ratings. It won't be a top 10. It won't be in any specific order. I think I'm going to kind of just go in the order that these movies were released. So I'm fairly new to YouTube. I'm now in my 4th month, but I've been doing it 3 months solid, reviewing movies, doing top 10 tier lists of my top 10 horror movies of 2024. You can check that out. Worst of 2024, most disappointing, and I'm currently working on most surprising movies of 2024. My intention was to work on that one today and get that one uploaded next. But as I was going through those movies, I realized that I need to watch some of these again to give you guys a better idea of how I feel about them. So wait for that one to be coming soon to YouTube. So just so you know what the Good Burger rating system is, I have 5 main categories, and sometimes I might change it up a little bit with little additions like extra ketchup representing gore. But the top category is Cheeseburger in Paradise. This is saved for movies that really go above and beyond. Movies that get me not just in the horror category, but usually in all the categories. It usually is a nice blend. It's done exceptionally well, and these are the movies that end up being on my top 10, my favorites of the year. Next category would be Good Burgers. These are also very good movies. Maybe not as good as a Cheeseburger in Paradise, but the quality is still very good. Very highly entertaining, usually scary or thrilling. Good plot line, good characters. Basically what we go to the movies for, a good movie. And then we have our basic movies. Or basic burgers. So the basic movies are movies that I rate as basic. They tend to be like so-so. They're good in some spots. I may have liked them, or maybe they're just a one-time watch. Usually movies in this category may not have high rewatchability. Sometimes they could be predictable, or just, somewhere somehow they're falling just a little bit shorter than what a Good Burger does. Next is the Veggie Burger. So Veggie Burger is basically a movie that just isn't my taste. Maybe in some cases, as we learned through some of the movies I've reviewed or talked about, it was a movie that was maybe done kind of well, but just didn't satisfy my needs, my expectations. Maybe it's something a little bit different than what I'm used to. Or maybe it's not in my wheelhouse of favorites. A subgenre that I'm not into as much as some of the other subgenres. For example, maybe like an artistic flair, or it's just, veggie is just something unexpected. Not always terrible, but just different. And then the final category is the spams. Spams are the ones that usually they just don't cut the mustard. They're just either done badly, or even, I don't think I'd ever put a movie that just wasn't my taste in this category. I just think that somewhere, somehow in the production of the movie, it's just lacking. Whether it's the scares, the comedy, the drama, the characters, the cinematic experience, whatever that might be, it just isn't coming through in these movies. If I'm giving it a spam, and I usually try to think long and hard about some of these ones that I have put in that category, because hey, I understand. This is someone's artwork. This is someone's job. This is someone who went and put a lot into the production that came to the screen or came to streaming. And I'm not trying to rip them to shreds, but at the end of the day, you're putting out a product and people either like the product or they don't. And sometimes some people just don't like certain things. And when you're doing movie reviews, you call it out. I like to call it out as I see it. Without no further ado, let's get into this. So we're going to start off with movies that I was watching in January. We're going to go in chronological order here. First movie on the list was Wolfman, Wolfman was the movie that I created this channel over and came up with the channel name of Good Burger. Comparing movies to burgers, how I like my movies is how I like my burgers. And Wolfman was a perfect example of a good burger, a good movie. Nothing extremely exceptional, nothing terrible, just good, solid entertainment. And Wolfman was filled with tension, excitement, and a great premise. Oh, the next movie that came out was Presence. Presence was fairly basic. Again, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was a ghost story told from the ghost's perspective. Lucy Liu was in it. It was decent enough, but at the end of the day, there was enough flaws that I felt that it was pretty basic. Okay, next we have Companion, and this was my first Cheeseburger in Paradise awarded out this year, and I went to the theater with no expectations because I hadn't seen much on it. Luckily, I didn't watch the preview. I was highly impressed with Companion. It had some great little twists in it. Obviously, the AI aspect was something I wasn't aware of until I walked in, learning that Sophie Thatcher's part was a robot. That was a great twist to the movie. And then Jack Quaid, he was tremendous in it. I really liked that one. I liked the overall premise of Companion. It's stuff that we've kind of seen before, but with new twists and new little comedy and stuff blended. I thought the blend of all the genres on this one, a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of thrills. And at the end of the day, I was completely engaged with Companion, and I ended up going home just loving it, waiting for it to come down in price so I can go out and buy it. Alright, next on the list was Hard Eyes. This one came in as a good burger. What I'll say about this one is exactly what I shared to Facebook about it, so I'm going to read what I posted there. Finally, a Valentine slasher done right. A romantic comedy slasher. Just enough blood meets just enough love. Slashers are back in a new meta way with all the right throwbacks mixed with a fresh, modernized characters. This is a B movie with A ideas, a fresh approach, and this one's a real scream. Schlocky comedy and suspense-filled gory horror. Romance ain't dead yet. Then the next movie that I reviewed was The Monkey. Monkey came in as a veggie. Since then, I've kind of been, it's growing on me a little bit. It might find its way out of veggie and into basic. My poll quote on that was, it was a Final Destination meets an imaginary. And it was a decent enough, but it did fall short for me in a lot of spots. I.e., I didn't really get with the main character of that one as much. I did, however, like the Final Destination aspect of it, but I felt like the kills came a little too quick and needed a little bit more build-up. So we're already done with January and February, and then March came, and all of a sudden more and more horror movies started coming out. On some weekends was like 2 and 3 releases. I didn't even get a chance to review everything that I wanted to. Like, for example, I was hoping to have reviewed the Anthony Hopkins and Bill Skarsgård's movie Locke, but never got out in time to see it. And now it's already out of the theater in my areas. The first one that I watched in March was The Rule of Jenny Penn. And this is another one that I ended up giving a veggie, but it is growing on me. I watched it a second time. It's already out on Shudder. I watched it a second time. And this is another one that my initial reaction was a little sour, but in the second watch, I liked it a little bit more. This was the nursing home. It was more of a thriller where John Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush were staying in the same nursing home, and they were kind of having these battles at night where Lithgow's tormenting Rush and another gentleman in the nursing home, and he's got the little doll named Jenny Penn, the little puppet that he has on his hand. So that one's on Shudder now. Okay, next on the list was Opus. Opus was the cult the cult thriller that starred John Malkovich and Adiel Alberi. That one I ended up giving a basic. I did enjoy that one. It was reminiscent of Midsommar, and it also gave me some Blink Twice vibes. It's worth a watch. I did see that it's still running in the theaters around here, so I mean it's doing well. All right, next on the chopping block was Borderline. That one was the one that I gave a spam. I just couldn't get with that one. It was Samara Weaving and Ray Nicholson. It was to be a horror comedy where Ray Nicholson's character is obsessed, is like the stalker of Samara Weaving's, and she's a pop star. And you know, I struggle with that one. No, not much tension, not much comedy that I saw in it. There was, you know, a lot of mixed reviews on the internet about that one as well. Even Samara Weaving fans were like, ugh. Then a nice little pleasant surprise was The Parenting, starring Lisa Kudrow, which I loved that one. I gave that one a good burger as well. It was the Meet the Parents meets The Craft blend. It's streaming on Max. It still is available on Max. It was a great horror comedy. This is, for me, you know, compared to Borderline, this is how a horror comedy should be. You know, and horror comedies, they can only get you so far because, you know, it's when you have that blend, you know, you never have the full of one or the other. But when it's done right, it's still pretty decent and can be you know, a good entertaining watch. And I feel Parenting definitely stood out compared to Borderline. Then we had the sci-fi space horror Ash, the one that was competing with Alien, or you know, Alien meets The Thing. Alien meets almost anything John Carpenter-ish. Another one that I gave a good burger to. I really am looking forward to that one coming onto Shudder soon. I'm sure it'll be hitting Shudder within this month in April, so I'm looking forward to giving that one a rewatch. Okay, this was the most controversial one on the list, Woman in the Yard. That one, I'm still mixed on it. I ended up giving it a basic. It was the one starring the woman in the yard, and you know, there's just been a lot of, because it had such an ambiguous ending, it was blowing up on YouTube and on other social media sites, you know, people's, you know, opinion of it, and you know, some people loving it, other people hating it, and me just kind of falling slap in the middle because I loved the beginning, wasn't a fan of the end. However, what I will say about Woman in the Yard, since I've had it's only been 2 weeks, but still, it's growing on me more because I feel like I have a better understanding of my interpretation of the ending, which I don't want to get into the ending here because I want to keep this video mostly spoiler free as far as the movies, but it was marked down as a basic. Next was another one that was a pleasant surprise, and that was Popeye the Slayer Man. You know, these public domain movies that have been prominent over the last couple of years. Haven't been a fan of them as much, but this one stood out. I really, of all of them, I'd say it's definitely up there. Probably the best. I have to watch the other two Popeyes, but I did watch the previews of them, and I feel like this Popeye is going to be the best of all of them. I ended up giving Popeye, I gave it a basic, and I mean, it was basic. You know, I expected it to be lower, so I was surprised that it ended up being decent enough. And I was able to squeeze in one more Cheeseburger in Paradise in the first quarter of this year. And definitely was a surprise to me because I wasn't expecting much from the horror comedy Death of a Unicorn. And I've, you know, in my review, I really started to delve into that one, and it was like a blend of Jurassic Park meets Magical Unicorn Story. I really love this one. Again, similar to Companion, it had that perfect blend of comedy with tension, with drama, with just with just all of it. And I ended up really loving that one. And you know, you can't go wrong for me when you're kind of mimicking one of my all-time favorites, which is Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. So that's it. That's the quarter and a wrap up. You know, we've had a pretty good variety in this first quarter. Cheeseburger, a couple cheeseburger and paradises, a few good burgers, a few basic burgers, a few veggies slipped in there, and one Spam. Thanks again, guys, for watching. I am currently trying to build up my subscriber count, so I would appreciate if anyone who likes horror movie reviews, top 10 lists, or Halloween, anything Halloween or horror movie related, to please subscribe. I will continue to give out this type of content. And I just wanted to say thank you guys for being a part of the channel and coming back and watching. I really do enjoy talking horror movies and making these lists, and hope that you guys are finding the information I provide for you guys useful, as far as whether or not maybe you want to see a certain movie or not. I have been watching a lot of movies. I've been around long enough. I've seen many of them. As you can see in my collection behind me here, I've seen many of these in the theater, have owned many of them on you know, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, now digital. And so thanks again.